Alrighty, hi all. This is Evergreen Habitat for Humanity's new land lease class. This document is a monster. It's about 52 pages long. So during this meeting, we're just kind of going to go over everything just in a little bit simpler terms and a lot less legal jargon. So to jump in, we'll start with section 1. You should be able to follow along with the actual contract, if you'd like to, or if you want to look back at this video a little bit later when you have the contract to understand kind of where we're at. This goes over everything in order in the exact same steps, just in a lot simpler terms. So we'll start with section 1. This is going to be our recitals and our definition. So essentially, this agreement is between Evergreen Habitat LLC, which is from here on out going to be called HHT, and the homeowner. So HHT owns the land under the home, and the homeowner owns the house that sits on that land. The goal of this whole land lease agreement is to keep housing affordable for families not only now, but in the future as well. And we do this by separating the land from the house. The cost of buying a home becomes much lower. And then when the home is sold, there are special rules to keep the next sale affordable so that another family can benefit from this program as well. So let's just kind of go over why this lease exists. So Habitat's mission is to help families with low or moderate incomes buy homes they otherwise couldn't afford. And this works by keeping the ownership of the land with Habitat while the homeowner buys and owns the house. This allows Habitat to keep costs down in the initial buying process and prevent the house from being resold at a high market price. And this is a shared commitment between both Habitat and the homeowner, and we both agree to protect the long-term affordability of the house by following the rules in this lease. So to go over just in the very beginning, here's a couple definitions, and these are keywords that you'll see throughout this lease, and they'll come up a lot in both this version and in the legal jargon version. So firstly, the homeowner, this would be you, the person or people who are buying and living in the house. HHT is just a short abbreviation for Evergreen Habitat LLC, the organization that owns the land and manages this lease. The home is the house and anything permanently attached to it, including the garage or the deck. The land is the piece of land that the house sits on, which Habitat owns. This is also sometimes referred to as a parcel or a plat. There's a lease fee. That's a small yearly payment the homeowner makes to Habitat for the right to use the land. The base price is the original price the homeowner paid for the home. The initial value is the appraised market value of the home at the time the homeowner bought it. So to kind of break this down, for example, if the market value of the home that we're selling you was $407,800, but the homeowner only bought it for $310,000, then $407,800 is going to be that initial value. It's what it would have been sold at market rate without the grants and subsidies that we gave you. Your purchase option price, however, is the highest price the home can be sold for in the future. And this is calculated using a special formula, which we'll discuss all the way down in Article 10 to make sure that the home stays affordable. An income qualified buyer is a person or family whose income is low or moderate as defined by government guidelines. That's those HUD guidelines that we talked about in the beginning. And those are approved by Habitat as well. Default is when a homeowner breaks the rules of this lease, like not paying the lease fee, renting out the entire home without permission, or not living in the home as required. And then just kind of to go into this, here's an example to help you understand. So kind of as we talked about, there was that home market value. So we're going to say that's $407,800. The homeowner buys it for $310,000 though through Habitat's program. Habitat keeps the difference, that $97,800, as community investment, which stays with the land to keep future sales affordable. So we hold that value, that $97,800. That's the equity you're getting up front. We hold that value. We hold that equity up front to make sure that the house and the land stays affordable for future generations. So that's why you don't get as much equity on the back end when you sell your home. And this means you get to buy a home for much less than market value. And in return, when you sell, you must follow those resale rules so another family gets the same opportunity. So then let's get into Article 1. This is understanding the lease and your rights. So Article 1.1, you have the right to get legal advice. Before signing this lease and anytime after, you have the right to speak with your own lawyer to make sure you understand this lease. This lease includes important rules and restrictions, especially about how you can sell your home in the future. That's one of the biggest things in here. So you can choose to speak with a lawyer and they will sign a form saying that they've reviewed the lease with you, or you could choose not to speak with a lawyer and instead you could sign a form saying that you chose to skip that step. Either way, a form is getting signed. We just want to make sure that you guys, to the full extent of your ability and desire, understand this lease and get the chance to really delve into it prior to signing. And why this matters, once you sign this lease, you do agree to follow all of its rules. It is a legally binding contract. So Habitat does strongly encourage you to talk with a lawyer first or talk with somebody that you know, or just make sure that you understand and digest this document to the full breadth. And 1.2, Article 1.2 is just saying sign to confirm that you understand. And when you sign this lease, you are confirming that A, you understand the rules, B, you know your rights under this lease, and C, you agree to follow everything written here and discussed in this lease. Article 2 kind of goes over leasing the land. So this explains what it means to lease the land and how this relationship works between you and Habitat. So 2.1, you are leasing the land, not buying it. You're buying the house, but Habitat will continue to own the land underneath of it. By signing this lease, Habitat gives you the right to use, live on, and take care of the land for as long as this lease lasts. And this lease is built to last a lifetime. It will be 99 years. If you ever will this home to your children, it'll be another 99 years. It resets if it's willed, it resets if it's sold. It's meant to last the lifetime of this property. You're also saying that you accept the land as is, meaning that you're okay with its current condition. Um, Article 2.2, you don't own anything underground. With you not owning the land, that also means if you're digging in the backyard and you find any sort of mineral or natural resource under the land, such as oil, gas, or stone, Habitat does keep the ownership of anything underground. We also cannot remove anything underground, however, without your written permission. So if you're digging in the backyard and you find gold and you tell us, we do own that, regardless of whether you tell us or not. But if you tell us, we're not going to come in there with an excavator the next day and, start tearing up your backyard. We won't do that without your written permission, without you expressing a desire for us to do that or any communication about us doing that. We'll get your permission. This is still your home. And then finally, section 2.3, neighborhood or community rules. Sometimes in these properties, there are shared rules in the neighborhood, like where fences can go, rules for shared spaces, or guidelines for home appearances. These rules are meant to protect the neighborhood and keep it safe and attractive. Most commonly, this is referring to an HOA. Um, at least for most of our VHA homes, I know that shouldn't be an issue. And otherwise, if it's an HOA that's put in place by Habitat, we will discuss those rules with you as well. So you don't need to be afraid of finding out what those rules are. But just do be aware that sometimes it is possible that this is a situation that you may run into within the neighborhood. But by signing this lease, you agree to follow these community rules along with the rules in this document. Moving into a house in an HOA or moving into a community that already has these rules set does mean that you have to follow them as well. This land lease isn't the only agreement in buying this house. So the rules discussed in here aren't all ending, they aren't all being, these are just the rules specifically that apply to the land lease. So let's hop into Article 3. This kind of discusses how long the lease lasts. And as I mentioned earlier, it lasts for 99 years unless it ends early because of certain situations explained later on in the document. You can renew for another 99 years. If the first 99 years are almost over, you do have the right to renew the lease for another 99 years. However, to do this, you must be following all of the rules in this lease, notify Habitat in writing at least 6 months prior to the lease's end, and still be living in the home and not in default at the time you renew. And this matters because if you follow the rules, this lease is basically forever. You and future owners can stay as long as they want. In Article 3.3, if Habitat ever sells the land, if by some odd reason we ever sell or transfer the land to another organization or person, this lease continues, and the new owner of this lease has to follow all the same rules. So if Habitat ever sells to, another nonprofit, if Habitat ever goes away and your land is picked up by another nonprofit, they have to follow the same rules discussed in this land lease. This will not go away. This is another protection method. If we somehow go under, if we somehow disappear, your house is still safe under the clauses of this lease. And if Habitat decides to sell the land to someone outside of its mission, like a private investor, then you would have the first opportunity to buy the land yourself. We will always come to you first before we sell to any private investor or anybody trying to. However, the case of us ever doing that is highly unlikely. For Article 4, how can you use the home and the land? We do require residential use only. You must use the home only as a place to live, not for businesses or commercial purposes. You can't renovate the home and make it, your intake center, your home, your office, your, business hub. Home-based businesses, however, are allowed only if there are no signs or other visible signs of business activity, no customers or clients regularly coming into the home, It can't cause problems for neighbors or raise insurance rates, and it has to follow all local laws and zoning rules. So especially here, it's important to note, this is something we talk about a lot in the orientation now. We can't have clients crossing the threshold. There's some kind of legal tie-up here with us owning the land underneath. It not only makes you susceptible to legal action if anything were to happen, would a client cross your threshold, it also subjects us to that same legal action. So we're just trying to protect everybody here and their assets, your home, your stuff, everything within the home. You also must care for the home and the land. You are responsible for keeping the home and yard safe, clean, and in good condition. Trash must be thrown away safely, and the property must meet local health and safety rules and also stay in good enough condition to be considered insurable. You are also responsible for any guests. If friends, family, or visitors come to your house, you're responsible for their actions. If they break those rules, it counts as you breaking those rules. So please, please, please be mindful of people that you have over if you're, thinking of this being a long-term thing. If you rent out a room in your house, anything that they do that breaks this contract could also fall back on you. And you also must live in the home for most of the year. This house must be your primary resident for at least 10 months each year. If you need to be away temporarily, Habitat may allow it if you get written permission first. And family members like a spouse, partner, or children can count as fulfilling this requirement if they live there full-time as well. This is primarily just to protect people from buying these homes, moving to a different state, and then renting them out over Vrbo or any other vacation Airbnb website, kind of like that. And you also cannot rent or sublease. You cannot rent out the entire home, even for a short time, like on Airbnb or Vrbo. This rule keeps the home affordable and available for families who need this permanent housing. If you ever rent out the home, however, or let others live there without permission, you are breaking the lease and Habitat can take action. And to kind of piggyback on this, you can absolutely rent out a room. You can absolutely have roommates. This just applies to the entirety of the home. It cannot be up for rent. It cannot become a rental property, an asset for you in that sort. And Habitat also can inspect the property. We do reserve the right to inspect the land and outside of the home within at least 48 hours notice. We cannot come inside the home unless it's an emergency or if you're selling the home and we need to check its condition. But again, we'll let you know. It's also highly unlikely that we would ever do this. You also have a right to privacy, and that includes the quiet enjoyment of your home. Habitat will not interfere in your private life or activities unless it relates to these lease rules. We don't care what you do, just don't break the lease, essentially. And who can qualify to buy? So when you first bought the home, you had to meet certain qualifications like being a first-time home buyer, having a household income below a certain limit set by government guidelines, and agreeing to live in the home as your primary residence. These same rules apply to future buyers when the home is sold. And an annual occupancy check each year, you must confirm who's living in the home by filling out a form for Habitat. This helps Habitat make sure the rules about occupancy are being followed. And if you fail to return this form, it may count as a violation of the lease. But again, if you have children and one of them moves out to go to college, if one of them gets their own apartment, if you had a partner that no longer is living with you, any sort of situation where your occupancy changes, we're not going to come into your home and remove it. We're not going to take it from you because your number of people has changed. We just want to make sure that we know that the home isn't vacant, essentially. And then your lease fee. So this is going to be what you pay to Habitat. This should be all within Article 5. This section explains the yearly fee that you pay for the right to use the land. So how much you pay? You're going to pay Habitat $360 per year to lease the land. This payment helps Habitat keep housing affordable for you and for future homeowners. Payments are made to Evergreen Habitat for Humanity, usually by check or money order, unless Habitat gives you different instructions. Think of it like a low-cost land rent. It's far less than a traditional land rental because Habitat's goal, again, is affordability, not profit. And with this, we do also have the option to break this up monthly as well. If it's easier to just do the $360 lump sum at the beginning of the year, that's absolutely welcome. You can also do those monthly installments. It should come out to $30 a month. There are other possible fees, however, neighborhood maintenance fees. If there is a homeowners association, you may have to pay monthly or yearly dues to help maintain those shared areas like streets, sidewalks, or parks. If Habitat has to make repairs, if you or the HOA don't take care of maintenance, that is your responsibility, and Habitat can step in to make those repairs. You will, however, then have to reimburse Habitat for the full cost of that work. And when to pay, the lease fee is due once a year, every January 1st. Your payment will be adjusted, however, based on the date that you move in. This is called prorating. And then why this fee is low, Habitat sets the lease fee at a level that keeps your housing cost affordable. The fee is not meant to be a profit for Habitat. It's just a tool to support the program and maintain the land. Habitat also may reduce the fees. In special cases, Habitat can lower or temporarily pause your lease fee if you're having financial hardship. This is, however, entirely up to Habitat and must be in writing. It's again not guaranteed and it may not be offered again in the future. It's just in certain case-by-case basis. We never want this to be a barrier for you. So if you need it, please talk to us. We'll come up with that written agreement and we'll see what we can do. Small yearly increases. The land lease fee can also slightly increase over time. I don't believe that we've increased it in recent years. It's not something we plan on doing. And increases would never be more than 2% per year. I think that comes out to like 6 cents. So we're not really gonna ever increase it substantially. You know, it's not gonna be $30 one year, $30 a month one year, and $60 a month the next year. It would maybe raise by 6 cents. But again, that's not something that we hope to do. And if the rules change or are broken, if certain major rules like no renting out your home are removed or ignored, the lease fee will increase significantly to match what the land would cost at regular market rate. This increase encourages everybody to follow the affordability rules, so there are consequences. If you do decide to rent out your home and turn it into a for-profit venture, it will raise to market rate. It'll remove that affordability sector for you, and it'll become a market rate home. Late payments. If your lease fee payment is late, Habitat may charge interest on the amount that you owe. The interest rate will never be more than 12% per year. And if you pay within 30 days of the due date, you won't be charged any interest. This goes for your land lease. You know, your bank would have different rules for your mortgage payment as well. But we just want to make sure, make those payments on time. And then unpaid fees when you sell. If you owe any unpaid lease fees when you sell your home, Habitat will collect that money directly from sale proceeds before you receive your portion. We do still have to get paid for these things, even though it's not for profit, it is still things that help our organization run the way that it does. So if there are those unpaid lease fees, we will collect on that one way or another. Article 6 is going to cover taxes and government charges. This article explains who pays property taxes and other government-related fees. So you must pay all property taxes. As the homeowner, you are responsible for paying all property taxes and government charges related to the house, the land, and any neighborhood assessments. Even though you don't own the land, you still pay taxes on it just like regular homeowners. However, this is something that can be written off at the end of the year. We also do try and file tax exemption forms on our properties. You still have to file, you still have to pay, but that is something that you can typically get a rebate on. If Habitat gets the tax bill, sometimes the tax bill may accidentally be sent to Habitat instead of you. We will forward the bill to you or the neighborhood association. It is still, however, your responsibility to make sure that those get paid on time. We'll do everything we can to get them to you. We'll likely call and email you as well and see if you'd prefer to pick them up. But it is still something that you are responsible for paying, even if it gets sent to us. You can also dispute taxes. If you believe that your property taxes are too high or unfair, you have the legal right to challenge them with the local tax office. Habitat may help you with this process, but you must agree to pay for any legal or filing costs yourself. We won't incur those costs, but we can help you get into contact with people that know what to do in terms of disputing your taxes. And if you fail to pay your property taxes, Habitat can increase your lease fee to cover those unpaid taxes, and Habitat will then pay the taxes on your behalf to prevent the property from being lost to tax foreclosure. So we will pay it, but again, it's the same situation. We will need to collect that payment, and you will still owe that to Habitat. And proof of payment, when either you or Habitat pays those taxes, you must be able to show proof like a receipt or tax statement. This keeps everything clear and documented. There's no gray areas about whether things have been paid or not. Article 7 is going to cover the home as a whole. This explains who owns the house, rules for changes or construction, and what happens at the end of this lease. So firstly, you own the home. You fully own the house and anything permanently attached to it, like a deck, a garage, any add-ons you add, anything. You own the home. However, there are restrictions on what you can do with the house, especially when selling it. You cannot tear down, move, or destroy the house without Habitat's written permission. You can't buy the house, scrap it, and build a new one over the top of it unless you talk to us first and receive permission to do that. And when you sign this lease, you also purchase the house at the same time. Habitat transferred ownership to you through a legal deed. Rules for construction or changes. You must get written approval from Habitat before making any major changes or additions, including adding new rooms or structures, changing the outsiding materials like siding or roofing, building sheds, garages, or fences. And steps to get approval are sending Habitat a request explaining what you want to do, include drawings or plan if possible, and wait for written permission before starting work. And this just protects the neighborhood's appearance and the home's resale value. It also just lets us know what's happening with the house. We really don't care if you want to add on a second bathroom or add on a new room or change the roofing material or, change the siding from vinyl to shiplap. We really don't care. This just keeps us in the loop so we know when we're getting ready to sell it. If it ever comes back to us or if we ever have questions, we know what's going on with our houses too. We just want to make sure everything is okay. Um, you also cannot use the land as collateral for debts or loans. However, if someone files a claim called a lien against your house for unpaid bills or work, you must resolve it within 60 days. If you don't, again, Habitat has the right to step in, pay it off, and bill you for the cost. We can help you, we can help prevent you from incurring any adverse action, but you will still owe us for that cost. You also handle all maintenance and utilities. You are fully responsible for paying and maintaining all utilities, including water, electricity, trash, internet, etc., keeping the home in a safe, clean condition, and making repairs when needed. Habitat is not responsible for repairs or utility services. This is unfortunately something that comes with home ownership. We do have a repair program, however. If you need help making some of these repairs, please contact us and we'll see if there's anything that we can do to help or help find a finance plan through our repair program. And when the lease ends or if it's terminated, the house becomes Habitat's property. Habitat pays you the resale value of the house, calculated using the special formula in Article 10, and any unpaid lease fees or liens are deducted from the amount Habitat pays you. This ensures you're fairly compensated even if you don't own the land. We do also ask that there is no land development without approval. You cannot apply for permits or make changes to the land's zoning on your own. If you learn about potential government actions that might affect the land, you must tell Habitat right away. Again, this is just keeping us in the loop. We want to know what's going on. Article 8, financing and mortgages. This section is going to explain the rules about taking out a mortgage or refinancing a mortgage. So firstly, get permission before taking a loan. You cannot take out a mortgage or a home loan without Habitat's written approval. Any approved loan is called a permitted mortgage. That's another term you'll hear. First loan is automatically approved. Your original initial mortgage that we used to buy the home is automatically approved when you sign the lease. However, if you want to refinance or take a new loan later, you must first notify Habitat in writing at least 60 days before closing on that refinance and share details about the loan like the lender's name, the loan amount, the interest rate, the repayment schedule, and the reason for taking the loan. Habitat will only approve the loan if it doesn't push your total mortgage debt above 80% of the home's resale value or threaten the home's affordability. Again, we want to make sure that this is a sustainable place to live for you. We don't want the costs to become so high that you can't buy food. We don't want this to cause any lasting issues. We also just want to make sure that we know the lender because with this being a land lease, there are some semantics and we want to make sure that all of those are covered in your new mortgage as well. And rules for lenders. Any lender who provides a mortgage must also agree to follow the special rules laid out in this lease. These rules protect you both you and Habitat if there's ever a problem with repayment or foreclosure. And what happens in foreclosure? If the home is ever foreclosed on and sold, the lender gets paid first. You cannot profit beyond the restricted resale price, and any extra money from the sale goes to Habitat to preserve that affordability. So now we'll jump into Article 9. This is going to be insurance and liability. Why insurance is important. Insurance protects you, Habitat, and your lender if something goes wrong. It helps repair or replace the home if it's damaged, and it protects everyone in this pool from financial loss if there's an accident. If there's a fire and half of your house is damaged, it helps you replace that. It keeps the mortgage lender safe, it keeps Habitat safe, it keeps you safe. Make sure that nothing unfair is going to happen and the cost and in the wake of an unfortunate circumstance. And you must keep these types of insurance. You are required to have insurance for the entire time you own the home. You'll need homeowner's insurance, which again covers that full replacement cost of the house if it's damaged or destroyed, and protects against risks like fire, storms, or vandalism. You also need liability insurance, and you need at least $500,000 of coverage for each incident. It also protects you if someone gets hurt on your property or sues you for damages. Flood insurance, if your home is in a flood zone, This is required by law if your home is located in an area prone to flooding. If it's not in an area prone to flooding, this is something that you can consider adding as well. And any other coverage, if your lender or habitat requires any other additional types of insurance, you must maintain that as well. And again, this is just to keep you safe, keep the home safe, and keep everything in good standing so that if anything unfortunate were to happen, there are protections for you and for us. Habitat also must be listed on your insurance. We must be named as an additional insured party on all of your policies, which means that Habitat is automatically included in the coverage and will receive updates directly from your insurance company. This also means that even though we are on the policy, we do need proof of insurance. You must send Habitat a copy of your insurance policy or renewal notice once a year. This shows that your coverage is active and meets the lease requirements. If your home is damaged and if something happens that causes major damage to your home, here's how this process works. Firstly, you must notify Habitat and your insurance company right away. Make sure we both know. 2, the insurance company will come and inspect the damage and decide how much to pay for those repairs that are needed. Insurance money will be used in this order. Firstly, to pay off any remaining mortgage debt. Second, to cover the cost of cleanup and rebuilding. Third, to pay any unpaid fees or amounts owed to Habitat. And finally, any leftover money goes to you up to the maximum resale price allowed by Article 10. So for example, if a fire destroys the home and insurance pays $200,000, $150,000 would go to pay off the mortgage if you had $150,000 remaining on your mortgage. $20,000 is going to cover your cleanup. $10,000 would then go to Habitat for unpaid lease fees, and then $20,000 remaining would go to you. So this is just kind of a breakdown of if this were to happen and these were your numbers, that's kind of what it would look like. That's what those disbursements would look like. If you don't rebuild, if your home is destroyed and you decide not to rebuild, you must notify Habitat in writing. Follow the steps in Article 10 to sell or transfer the home site back to Habitat, and Habitat will then pay you the calculated purchase option price. If the government takes the land, i.e. eminent domain, sometimes the government may need to take part or all of the land for public use, like building a road, and this process is called eminent domain. Here's how it works. So firstly, the government will pay compensation for taking the land. You will get paid. That money will then be divided the same way as insurance proceeds. Mortgage gets paid first, then cleanup and rebuilding, then Habitat, and then finally you get to take the maximum resale value. If only part of the land is taken, the lease does continue, but your lease fee may be adjusted to reflect that smaller land area. And now we're finally in that infamous Article 10 that keeps getting mentioned throughout this video. This refers to selling or transferring your home. This is one of the most important parts of the lease. It explains how you can sell your home and how the resale price is calculated to keep the home affordable for future families. So firstly, why are there resale rules? Well, when you bought your home, you paid less than full market value because of Habitat's program. This discount is called a community investment. That's one of those definitions that was talked about way back at the beginning of this video. And this is done to help families like yours. To keep that investment going, you agree not to sell the home for full market price later on. Instead, there's a special formula that decides the maximum amount that you can sell the home for, called that purchase option price. And again, this is just because we're giving you some of your equity upfront. That just means you're going to get a little less on the back end, but it's still getting your foot in the door. It's still building you that equity. It's still giving you the chance to buy, a secondary home if you want, or make some money off of this and, get your foot in the door with some of that generational wealth that everybody talks about. So 10.2, steps to sell your home. If you want to sell your home, here's the process. You are absolutely allowed to sell your home. Once you buy this doesn't mean that you're locked into this contract forever and ever and you can never sell. You can never get out of it. You absolutely can. Firstly, we do ask, though, that you notify Habitat and you must send a written notice that you want to sell. This is called an intent to sell notice. We do have to have one of these on files before we can continue with the procession of selling that home. Secondly, Habitat decides if they'll buy it. We do have first buyback rights, so after you notify us, we have the first option to buy your home at the calculated price. If we don't want to buy it, we may assign this right to another qualified buyer. And then you can find an income qualified buyer in step 3 if you'd like. If Habitat doesn't buy the home, you can sell it yourself, but only to a buyer who meets Habitat's income guidelines. And Habitat must approve the buyer before the sale is final. Again, with that permanent affordability, we want to make sure that this home is going to somebody who is in a similar position to you as you are right now, where you get outpriced in those market rate homes. It's hard to get your foot through the door. We just want to make sure that we're continuing to do that for families for generations to come. So how the resale price is calculated, this is the big question. The purchase option price uses a clear formula to keep the home affordable. So your base price And then there's an annual increase, 1.5% of the base price for each year that you've owned the home. Approved costs for permanent improvements you've made, which would be unpaid lease fees, taxes, or debts owed to Habitat, and then that equals your maximum sale price. So here's an example calculation. So we're going to start here with your original purchase for $310,000. If you've owned it for 10 years, your annual increase is 1.5% times 10 years, or 15% of that original purchase price. Your approved improvements, say in this home you decided to add in a bathroom and that added $10,000 of value. Perfect. That gets added onto your price at the end as well. And then you had $0 in unpaid fees. So this is all the situation that creates it. So then here would be that formula. So it would be 310,000, that original base price, plus 15% of 310,000, which comes out to $46,500, plus the $10,000 from your I apologize. This would be plus the $10,000 from your improvement. So in total, you would get back $366,500. You cannot sell the home for more than $366,500, even if the market value is higher. Under these circumstances, that would be your roof. Now, some of that $366,500 would go towards paying off that mortgage and making sure that there's zero owed, zero in, and then you would get that remainder. So probably about that $46,500 and that $10,000. Not just make sure everything comes out even. That money that comes back to you is yours. You don't owe anything on the house. There's no skin left in the game, and everything is handled. So why does this matter? This rule keeps homes affordable for future families just like it was for you. It stops real estate speculators from buying the home, flipping it, and destroying the affordability. Again, we want to make sure this is something that we want to be attainable for you. This is something we want to be attainable for families 60 years down the road. We want to maintain this factor. And then 10.5. So what happens if you break the sale rules? If you try to sell your home without following these steps, or sell to someone who doesn't qualify, or sell for more than the allowed price, Habitat can come in, cancel the sale, take legal action, or buy the home back at the corrected formula price. This is legally binding. Again, when we say that this is what you can sell for, that we mean it. That is part of this. We give you your equity up front and you get a little less on the back end, but it all comes out in the wash. So now let's dive into Article 11, and this is if you break the lease or default. The section explains what happens if that ever occurs, if you default or if these rules are broken. So what counts as default? You're in default if you don't pay your lease fees or taxes on time, if you rent out or sublease the home, if you stop living in the home for more than 2 months without permission, if you don't maintain insurance, if you make false statements to Habitat, and if you break the resale rules in Article 10. This is what considers you for default. And what Habitat can do in with that if default happens. We can send you a written notice explaining what rule you broke. We'll give you time to fix the problem. We're not just immediately going to jump in and say, hey, you broke a rule, we're done. We'll give you time to fix that problem. However, if you don't fix it, Habitat can increase your lease fee, we can take back the lease, or we can buy your home at the formula price. We have 3 options. It's up to our jurisdiction which one of those we feel is appropriate for the situation, depending on the severity of the rule broken. And time to fix the problems. Again, for most problems, you'll have 30 days to correct them after getting a notice from Habitat. For serious safety or legal issues, you may have less than 30 days to fix them. And this is if the home becomes uninsurable because there's a giant hole in the roof or something of that sort. If it's required for the safety of the home and the individuals within it, you may have less than 30 days to fix it. And that's just because the situation is urgent where it needs to be fixed before a month goes up. And Article 12, dispute resolution. Sometimes disagreements will happen between you and Habitat. This article explains how to solve them without going to court. It's true, not everybody gets along all the time. There may be times that you and Habitat don't see eye to eye, and that's okay. It happens. These are just kind of steps that we like to include so that we can do this without going to court. It makes it a little easier on us, makes it a little easier on you. There's firstly mediation. This is when you and Habitat would meet with a neutral third person to work out a solution together. It's calm, informal, and it solves conflicts. It just helps having somebody from outside the situation kind of come in and help to mitigate those emotions coming from both sides. Arbitration is another idea as well. If mediation doesn't work or if mediation isn't an option that any of us like, either party can request arbitration. In arbitration, a neutral person would hear both sides and they would make the final decision for us. Their decision is legally binding, however, meaning both sides must follow it even if you don't like it. And there's also costs. Usually each side would pay their own cost, like attorney fees, unless the arbitrator decides otherwise. Again, if things go to an arbitrator, their decision is final. What they say goes, regardless of whether we feel it's fair or whether you feel it's fair. And Article 13 just goes over kind of miscellaneous rules. These are extra rules that didn't really fit in some of the other sections, but they are still really important and they are still worth having in this lease contract. So first, the lease stays valid even if habitat changes. This is something I was talking about again way back in the beginning of this video. If habitat ever merges with another organization or transfers the land, this lease stays valid. The new organization must follow all the same rules. You're not going to lose your land, unless you'll be compensated for it. There'll be notice. It's not going to happen overnight. We sell, we merge, your land is gone. They have to follow these rules. They have to follow the resale restrictions. They have to make sure that everything is done fairly and equitably as we intend. Written changes only. This lease can only be changed or updated in writing, signed by both you and Habitat. Verbal agreements on this lease are not legally valid. It has to be done in writing. It has to be binding. This lease is the full agreement. This document contains everything agreed to between you and Habitat. Anything not written here is not part of the agreement. And Article 14, final signatures. Both you and Habitat sign this lease to show that you fully understand and agree to all of its rules. Once it's signed, again, this lease becomes legally binding. So that was a lot. It's a lot to digest. I'm sure looking at that, 56-page document that this all covers, it's a lot. It's overwhelming. So a big picture summary to hit, the biggest bullet points. Obviously, we're not going to rehash everything, but the biggest bullet points are A, you own the house, Habitat owns the land. B, you agree to live in the house, take care of it, and pay a small yearly fee. C, when you sell, the price is limited, so future families can afford it as well. D, the land lease lasts 99 years with the option to renew for another 99 years if you're close to expiry date. And finally, Habitat is your partner, not your landlord. The goal is to support affordable housing for generations. We're not here to be restrictive. We're not here to be a pain in the butt. We're here to help. But, sorry, it looked like my computer froze there a little bit for a second, so this end might be a little funky. But big picture summary, essentially, we're here to help. We want to help. Affordable housing is something that we really well and truly believe in. If you want to rewatch this video and feel like you understand, absolutely please do. If you want to have a lawyer look at this document, again, absolutely please do. Let's make sure you understand it. We want everything to be fully understood before it becomes legally binding. If transcripts are needed, if you want a copy of this document that I went over, please feel free to email me at Riley, it's RILEY, at ehfh.org. You can call me as well. Our number should be posted on the website. Get into contact with somebody if you need anything, if you want any sort of transcript. Again, if you want translation, if that would make it easier as well, I would be more than happy to translate this document into any language preferable. I will say I might be a little clumsy, but I'll try my best. And if you need any interpretation services, again, please contact us. We'll do our best to figure out what we can do to get that for you. But yeah, thank you guys for watching this video. I understand this was a long one, but again, congratulations. The finish line is almost there. We so look forward to getting these documents signed and watching you guys live in your new house. We're super excited for you, and thank you guys for sticking through us with this whole process. Congratulations. Bye, y'all.